If I bleed tonight, if I am sad tonight, I don't have a job to find. And if I work tonight, if I'm so tired tonight, I'll fall asleep when I'm home, when I'm home. I was just so far from here, focused on my own way, with never looking back to those who lived in fear. There was nothing I could do, there was nothing you said that could make me realize how much lucky I was. Just out of reach of the fire, was not aware of the nightmare. But when I stopped to see through sight, begging for help, begging for hope, just need to open my eyes now, to try to change them to sunshine, to be someone among others. I've got to try it. If I bleed tonight, if I am sad tonight, I don't have a job to find. And if I work tonight, if I'm so tired tonight, I fall asleep when I'm home, when I'm home. No way to go, no one that can see through that side of the light. I can see my life is crap, I have to see them too. I just live into my world, far from the pain, the feel. Was out of reach of the fire, was not aware of the start of hell. But when I start to see through sight, begging for help, begging for hope, just need to open my eyes now, to try to change them to sunshine, to be someone among us.
And ladies and gentlemen, it is Monday night. It is 7 p.m. And that means it is time for the Locker Room Breakdown. Ladies and gentlemen, this is our Raw Perspective. I am OMD, and we are coming off a hellacious weekend in the world of wrestling. Everybody had something big going on. It began with Friday night on SmackDown, as well as TNA's Under Siege, the TNA TV tapings in Toronto on Saturday, alongside Saturday night's main event, leading up to AEW's Double or Nothing last night, as well as NXT Battleground. This was huge. There is a whole lot to cover between last Monday, Saturday night's main event, and going into tonight. So, ladies and gentlemen, last week, Raw started off with a segment between Gunther and Logan Paul. And Logan Paul kicked off Raw, and I love Logan Paul on the stick, ladies and gentlemen. Do not get me wrong. He is fantastic on the mic. Again, Logan Paul asserting that he was going to come out of Saturday night with the World Heavyweight Championship before he was interrupted by Gunther, who has an upcoming title match 2 nights after Money in the Bank. And they started talking about business and finance and all of that. And Gunther, did ask for maybe some financial advice from Logan Paul, etc. But Gunther did question whether Logan Paul would be able to hang with him. And quite frankly, ladies and gentlemen, at this stage in his career, I do not think Logan Paul would be able to hang with Gunther, provided Logan Paul came out of Saturday with the title. Gunther did walk away all for Logan Paul to eat a super kick from Jey Uso, the World Heavyweight Champion. Again, I love this segment. Gunther, who is fantastic on the stick as well, just keeps getting better and better. And this one didn't need any words from Jey Uso. I digress. It's time to move on to the matches. Finn Balor and JD McDonough reuniting within the Judgment Day to take on Penta and AJ Styles. I mean, what more can you say? I have sung JD's praises. I have sung Finn's praises. I've sung Penta's praises. I've sung everybody's praises in this match. And this match delivered. And I mean, what an opening contest to the show. Back and forth, hard hitting, aerial, technical, you name it, they did it. It was the Judgment Day, however, that came out with the win. And this was not really based on a lot of shenanigans. Yes, Carlito was at ringside and did get involved, but this was not a lot of shenanigans. This was closer to a clean victory for the Judgment Day. But AJ Styles and Penta, again, delivering for their first time ever teaming up that we know of. And what more is there to be said? Chris Best coming in here saying, hey, bro, good evening to you, Mr. Best. Always a pleasure to see you here. Always a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you for stopping in. Up next, Mr. Best, no, I will not be bringing up NXT at all from last night. I did mention it because everybody seemed to have something going on this weekend from WWE, TNA, AEW, but I'm not going to get into talking about NXT and what did or didn't happen last night. After that, we did see Roxanne Perez officially sign her Raw contract. And this has been far too long, in my opinion, before they got her signed. Personally, I absolutely love this deal. I think this is going to be huge for her. I think this is going to be huge for WWE and huge for Raw. Now, speaking of Roxanne Perez, she was in action defeating Becky Lynch and Natalya in a triple threat women's Money in the Bank qualifier. And again, ladies and gentlemen, this match was back and forth between all three of these women. A little more hard-hitting between Becky and Natalya. A little more technical with Roxanne and Natalya. And sort of a counterproductive between Roxanne and Becky, but it was still a fantastic, fantastic match. They weren't going out of their way to try and really take each other out. But we saved that for the women's Intercontinental Champion, Lyra Valkyria, who got involved in the match. And cost Becky Lynch the opportunity, which allowed Roxanne Perez to hit the Pop Rocks and make her the second woman to qualify, along with Alexa Bliss. Now, I find this interesting, folks. As you all know, I was at the Elimination Chamber back at the start of March, a match in which featured both Roxanne Perez and Alexa Bliss. These two are my picks, and I'm having a hard time choosing which one to win the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. Coming up a little bit after that, we had Sheamus and Grayson Waller. Now, this was a little bit of a payback from Austin Theory on this one, because Grayson, who the week before had given up his match to Theory, saying, you know, I was a bad friend, I was a bad partner, you take my match. Well, this time Theory turned the tables, got the match for Grayson, And again, I said it 2 weeks ago. I said it last week with Mr. Parrish. WWE, please shit or get off the pot if you are going to split A-Town Down Under up. In this one, you had Theory, who had control, Waller, who had control, telling Theory to take notes. Then as Sheamus started to regain control, Waller tried to take a hike but was prevented by Theory. And again, therefore, creating more dissension. But again, we didn't see any type of physical altercation or them in each other's faces. I don't know if this has to do with WWE not believing in either of these guys as singles competitors or what, but they need to pull the trigger on this split. Hopefully, we see it happen soon. A little bit later on, we saw another women's triple threat qualifier with Rhea Ripley facing both a returning Zoe Stark and a returning Kairi Sane. And this match, marred by injury, ladies and gentlemen, Zoe Stark hit a drop kick. Her leg bent a direction it shouldn't have. She was taken out. And our best here at the Locker Room Breakdown to Zoe Stark. This was a horrific injury. And I do hope that Zoe gets better soon. But we did end up with what ended up being a fantastic one-on-one match between Kairi and Rhea Ripley. In a match that all of us and a lot of us at the Raw Patrol felt was designed for Kairi Sane to win. And I think that could have put her in the position to win the Money in the Bank, to challenge her good friend and Damage Control partner, Io Sky. But instead, we had Rhea Ripley come away with the victory. Again, fantastic win, fantastic match, even though it wound up being one-on-one due to that horrible, horrible injury. I don't know the severity of the injury, but I do know that Zoe Stark did have to have knee surgery this past week. And again, our thoughts and prayers are with you, Zoe. Get well soon and get back to the ring. And on to our main event of the night. I know seems like we're going a little bit quicker, ladies and gentlemen. Maybe we are, because we are going to discuss Saturday night's main event a little bit along with tonight. But it was Jey Uso versus Braun Breaker non-title match. And it ended in a no contest. This was, again, a fantastic match and nothing we haven't seen before from either Braun or Jey, as when they feuded over the Intercontinental Championship last summer. I apologize for that, ladies and gentlemen. Both hit spears, both hit splashes. They went to the outside. They did everything imaginable. It was then Seth Rollins who came out, jumped Jey Uso, causing the end of the match. And it was absolute chaos. This did result in CM Punk and Sami Zayn coming out to make the save for Jey. They fought off Seth and Braun, all for Jey to eat that one lucky punch from Logan Paul to close the show. Ladies and gentlemen, last night's Raw was fantastic. One of the best high action all week. The shows have started off here and they've just taken off. They've got proceed to get bigger and better. The matches are harder hitting, more technical, you name it. This show was fantastic. On a scale of 10, ladies and gentlemen, last week's show, I'm giving an 8.5. We are going to cover some Saturday night's main event now because it's going to have there's going to be some fallout tonight that we are going to see 100%. In a very, very interesting opener. This was something I had pegged to actually main event the show over the world title match. But we had CM Punk and Sami Zayn versus Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker to open Saturday night's main event. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I was a little bit busy. I didn't get to really see too much. I did have Saturday night's main event on my phone. But Seth Rollins and Braun Breaker did secure a victory in that match thanks to a returning Bronson Reed, who went out and squashed CM Punk through the barricade. Everybody was asking, who's the third guy in this new alliance? Who's the third guy? Nobody knew. Nobody had Bronson Reed on their bingo card for this. This was epic. Epic. And then, you had a bit of a stare down between Braun and Bronson. And I find it interesting because, little over a year ago, Bronson attacked Seth and almost put him out with six tsunamis. But Seth walked over, gave him a big hug, and then Braun and Bronson shook hands, and Bronson Reed then proceeded to hit a tsunami off the top rope onto CM Punk. What does this mean for Bronson Reed? What does this mean for Seth Rollins? What does this mean for that group? More importantly, what does this mean for Sami Zayn or CM Punk? Does Punk take some time off? Does Sami continue this battle, or does he find somebody to go to war with him? Because we know he's going to need it. Up next, we then had the Women's United States Championship match. This was a SmackDown match between Zelina Vega defending against Chelsea Green. And she did it successfully. And ladies and gentlemen, I love Chelsea. I love Zelina Vega. I do hope that this puts a little bit of finality and closure onto this. You can get back to Chelsea Green a little bit later. It's time to open up the floor and get some new contenders for the U.S. title, especially in the SmackDown Women's division. Now, this match as well there was an injury as Zelina went to hit the 619. It looked like she hit the kick twice by accident. Chelsea Green did sustain a broken nose in the match when she ate the pin. But yes, and it was from a code red off the top rope. So what a move. And Zelina just keeps getting better and better. And we need to see that growth from her. Again, I apologize, ladies and gentlemen. The throat was getting a little bit dry. Up next, a match I didn't get to see at all. even though like I said, I had the show on my phone, I didn't get to see this match. John Cena defeating R-Truth in a non-title match. I did see the intros to this match. Both men coming out to John Cena's music. R-Truth coming out dressed as the old John Cena, doing all of John Cena's old shenanigans on his entrance, talking to the cameraman, and all of that. From there, that was all I saw. So from the information I have, Cena did attack R-Truth again post-match with the title. So again, what does this mean for R-Truth? Where does he go from here? We know that R-Truth is going to be back to his comedy routines on Fridays. I wish I could give you a little more insight into this match. I also missed the next match, which was the steel cage match between Drew McIntyre and Damian Priest. So again, I have no idea. I cannot say what happened. I do know that Drew McIntyre was injured in this match. We know that he has been dealing with nagging injuries for quite some time, as every wrestler does. I can attest to it, as can every other member of the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program and Turnbuckle Studios. When you start to feel right, there's something wrong in the wrestling industry. So again, ladies and gentlemen, I wish I could offer you some insight for tonight on that. But where do we go from here with Priest and Drew? Who knows? Again, that is SmackDown. And lastly, ladies and gentlemen, Jey Uso defeats Logan Paul to retain the title. Again, ladies and gentlemen, this match, not so much a back and forth, as both men really did seem to take control at certain points throughout. We didn't get what I was expecting in terms of interference, but Jey hit the Uso splash and was getting in the middle of getting the count when the ref was pulled out from the ring by John Cena, who then proceeded to go in, beat down Jey, all for the return of Cody Rhodes, who said, and I quote, "I'm sorry your retirement tour had to run through Rhodes country, but I'm back. You've got a partner in Logan Paul. I've got a partner in the world heavyweight champion, and we'll see you at Money in the Bank." So very, very interesting. We now know that it's going to be probably a tag team main event at Money in the Bank between Jey Uso, John Cena, Cody Rhodes, and Logan Paul. Do we get expansion on this? Maybe. I don't know. There are reports out there stating one thing. We get this announcement. So who knows, ladies and gentlemen, all you can do is play it by ear. But But after all of that, after all of the dust had settled, the smoke had cleared, Jey Uso did hit a super kick and then another Uso splash on Logan Paul for the ref to get back up and count the 3. So what does this mean for Jey Uso? What does this mean for Logan Paul? We know that now we've got this tag team match at Money in the Bank. We know we've got Gunther challenging Jey on June the 9th in a couple of weeks on Monday Night Raw. So this makes for an interesting show and build up for tonight. But ladies and gentlemen, what I want to do right now is show you some things. I want you to, first of all, if you are interested in getting your start in podcasting, content creation, potential collaborations, whatever you're looking for, contact us at turnbucklestudios.org. We can give you your introduction to that. We are more than happy to help. We are a family. You don't have to discuss wrestling. You don't have to discuss gaming. You can discuss whatever it is you want to discuss. And we will help you. I do want you to check out the man who is on call or working the shoot job tonight. He is on assignment. My boy Bubba. Find him on YouTube at Bubba OMD and on Twitch at The Boar's Nest with Bubba Duke. And ladies and gentlemen, that's where he does a lot of his solo gaming. I know we didn't have a Boar's Nest last night. I would be remiss if I didn't shout out this guy, the Bulkster. This guy here, if it wasn't for him, this show would not get off the ground every week. For everything he does, he is the one that gets us the reviews, the previews, as well as the major matches and segments. So ladies and gentlemen, go check this guy out on YouTube and on TikTok, both of them at Bulkster Show. If you are looking for me, ladies and gentlemen, you can check out my socials at Linktree, linktr.ee/OMD show. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot that goes on here at Turnbuckle Studios and the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program. So I want to right now play for you and show you everywhere that you can find me or any other programs that we have going on here.
Turnbuckle Studios and the Turnbuckle Studios and the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program bring you the week of streams. All times are in Eastern Time. Monday nights you get the Locker Room Breakdown at 7 p.m., followed by the Raw Patrol at 8 p.m. Tuesday brings you the flagship show, Turnbuckle Talk, at 8:05 p.m. Wednesday we play games with the PlayStation Showcase at 8 p.m. Thursday we got total non-stop action with Brace for Impact at 8 p.m. Friday we game again with Unleashed, the Jessica Wilde story at 7 p.m. Following the game, join us for the SmackDown Security Detail at 8 p.m. The weekend brings you Saturday Night Gaming at 8 p.m. On Sunday be sure to catch the Chris Parrish podcast at 12:15 p.m. followed by the Boar's Nest at 8 p.m. Be part of the shows and join the chat every day.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, that is everything that the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program and Turnbuckle Studios brings you throughout the week. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight is going to be huge. So in about 25 minutes or so, I'm going to be heading over to the Turnbuckle Studios room to get ready for the Raw Patrol, where we are going to be watching, of course, and analyzing everything that goes on. And ladies and gentlemen, we are going to start off with there is a triple threat world tag team title match. The New Day will defend the titles against the War Raiders and the Creed brothers. This was one that the New Day really wanted to get. They were trying to avoid the War Raiders, and it didn't happen. Yes, the New Day beat the War Raiders at WrestleMania. The New Day went to Chad Gable and said, we want to give these belts to the new breed and somebody that is American made. So we did see that match, and the Creeds did knock off the War Raiders to win that. But then we'd also seen that the War Raiders had defeated a couple of other teams. And then last week, the War Raiders were getting in the face of both the Creeds and the New Day as the match was being made official between those two teams, thereby making Adam Pearce make it a triple threat match. Ladies and gentlemen, I love this. This is now the old guard in the New Day with sort of the current guard in the War Raiders and the new guard or the future guard in the Creed brothers. So 3 different guards, generations, talents of wrestling in one match. I am going to go out on a limb, and I am going to say that the Creed brothers come away as the number 1 contenders. The New Day will retain, but it will be the War Raiders that eat the pinfall in this match. And we will potentially get that match between the Creeds and the New Day further down the line. We have 2 huge men's triple threat Money in the Bank qualifiers. Seth Rollins, Sami Zayn, and Finn Balor. History between all 3 of these men. My pick is Finn Balor because of everything that has been happening with Sami and Seth lately. I think that the Judgment Day doesn't even need to play a factor, but I do think they will. We know that Finn and Seth have had issues over the years, going back to the Finn Balor winning the first ever Universal Championship against Seth Rollins. Sami has fought the Judgment Day off and on throughout the years. But in this case, I'm going to say give me Finn. I would say give me Seth, but I do think that the Judgment Day might just be able to counter Braun Breaker and Bronson Reed in terms of the numbers, not necessarily the power. But I am going to take Finn Balor to win and go on to Money in the Bank. He is one that I would love to see win the briefcase and get that opportunity. Do I think that's going to happen? Highly unlikely, but I would love to see it. Up next, a very, very intriguing matchup. Chad Gable takes on Dragon Lee and Penta. Wow. It's all I can say. This match is going to be technical. This match is going to be high flying. This match, for me, already steals the show. We know that Chad Gable has his issues. Sorry, that's probably the wrong term. Has his dealings with Lucha Libre and luchadors and not having a whole ton of luck In this case, I am giving Chad Gable the win, as he is the only one who is not technically a luchador. He is the, between Penta and Dragon Lee, who are going to absolutely blow the roof off the place. I wouldn't be surprised to see one of them do, a 1600-degree somersault from a helicopter in this type of a situation. But I digress. I do think that this is where Chad Gable is going to get that first victory that he so desperately wants against luchadors. And who knows, maybe this will put an end to that and we will not need to see this continue to get dragged out. But this is going to be huge. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen, this is my match of the night. Again, ladies and gentlemen, we are looking at what is going to happen with CM Punk. Does he return tonight, or is he going to take some time off and rest up? Do we see him return in a couple of weeks at Money in the Bank? If he takes the time off, ladies and gentlemen, no. No, we do not see him at Money in the Bank. I do think we will see him prep for that big match for SummerSlam. And again, probably a night one main event of CM Punk versus Seth Rollins. What do we hear from Paul Heyman, Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, and Bronson Reed? Again, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know. We are going to have to wait and see and hear what they have to say. Reports as well that Liv Morgan has returned from filming her movie, and she is heavily reported to be in the arena tonight and making her return to Raw. Now, she's only been gone a couple of weeks, but her presence has been missed. So I know Carl Carafel is going to be all giddy if Liv Morgan is officially back on tonight's show, or whether she's just seen in a backstage segment, or whether she comes out to the ring and they're out there issuing challenges. In fact, I could actually see her potentially call out a Roxanne Perez if she's back, because of last week, which I forgot to mention. Finn did introduce Roxanne to the Judgment Day, not necessarily as a new member, but she brought Carlito a bag of apples and she brought Dom a box of chicken nuggets. Do we potentially see her and Raquel issue a challenge for somebody to step up and take the tag team titles? I don't know, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, wait and see. And lastly, I'm hoping that this match maybe kicks off the second or third hour. We are getting Rusev in his second match back, taking on Akira Tozawa of the Alpha Academy. We saw the Raw after WrestleMania when Rusev made his return. The following week, 2 weeks later, I believe, he fought Otis. And now 2 weeks since then, and he is fighting Tozawa. We know that this is going to be not necessarily an easy win, because we have seen Tozawa fight with the heart and tenacity of a lion, but this is going to be a victory for Rusev. Do we potentially see the return of Otis in this match for Tozawa? I don't know. Again, ladies and gentlemen, all we can do is watch.
Turnbuckle Studios and the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program bring you the week of streams. All times are in Eastern Time. Monday nights you get the Locker Room Breakdown at 7 p.m., followed by the Raw Patrol at 8 p.m. Tuesday brings you the flagship show, Turnbuckle Talk, at 8:05 p.m. Wednesday we play games with the PlayStation Showcase at 8 p.m.
Sorry, ladies and gentlemen, I apologize. I was trying to turn some stuff off and I can't hit it. But I am going to give a shout out to another one of our guys here in Chris Best, and you can find him at Linktree, linktr.ee/Chris_Best83. Chris Best is responsible for a lot of the introductions that you see on the shows, as well as he delivers some amazing, amazing content. So anyways, ladies and gentlemen, like I said, I do apologize for that. I'm started hitting wrong buttons that I wasn't trying to hit. There we go. Now I got it right. But yes, we get Rusev versus Tozawa in what should be an interesting match. What else does Raw have lined up for us? Ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned. Join us. Bulkster coming in saying, hello, great show. He's been watching. Thank you, Bulkster. I appreciate that. Thank you for everything you do. I know I've say it each and every week. This show wouldn't get off the ground without you, buddy. But ladies and gentlemen, all we can do is wait, watch, and see what will happen. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, you've seen everything we've got going on. You know our socials. Ladies and gentlemen, join us over at Turnbuckle Studios for the Raw Patrol in about 20 minutes' time. And always, ladies and gentlemen, the world is better with you in it. From all of us here at the Locker Room Breakdown and the Turnbuckle Affiliation Program, to those of you out there wherever you are, good night, good luck. I'm out.
Defy